I'm Ben Hammock, and I am making my dream game, Streetball Quest. And I'm going to show you how I went from this to this. I'm going to share with you my full vision of my dream game, Streetball Quest, and some of the problems I ran into along the way, and some of the changes I had to make. But first, I'm going to tell you why. So my dream game really comes down to a mix of three things. The first, number one thing being Fallout style RPG character building. So stats, building your character, that kind of thing. The second thing would be street basketball. Okay, think NBA Street, Volume 2, Volume 3. I actually loved Volume 3 because of the customization options. Make your own court, make your own shoe, amazing. And then of course the third, I would say the X factor of this whole dynamic here, because this is what made me think this is possible. And then my favorite game that I'm mixing into here is Griftlands. Okay, Griftlands, amazing roguelike deck builder. It's 2D, it's hand-drawn, it looks beautiful, and it plays beautiful. Those are the three things, and I wanted these things to exist together, and they don't. So I have to make them. I also got to tell you how I'm going to do this. Okay, so ultimately, down the road, far down the road, this is a video game. This would be so awesome as a video game, and it's actually not going to start out that way. The way it's going to start out is as a card game, as an actual board game, tabletop game with mostly cards and dice and cubes, markers, components, that sort of thing. Tiles, chits, if you will. What it will actually be is something that comes in a box that you can open, that you can immerse yourself into, and it'll ultimately be a product that people can purchase and also have and use and enjoy. So one of the ways I knew immediately how I could make this exist is because I've actually done it before. I've actually created another game called Enter the Hooptagon, and it completely exists, and it is cards. It comes in a box like this, and I've hand-drawn everything on there. I've created characters for it, drew them myself. I've created the mechanisms and cards and things that you do to play the game. I even implemented an RPG style perk system in this game. Now, Enter the Hooptagon is a party game. It's a game that you have to play with at least 4 people, but it's best with like 6 or 7. And it was a really fun experiment, and it showed me that I can actually make a card game work. But in order to get those 3 things combined that I really, really want, which would be Fallout, NBA Street, and Griftlands, I'm gonna need to be doing that by myself, solo adventure. I need to have that same feel of what it's like when you first go out in the wasteland in Fallout, or when you first start going on your journey to be the best street baller, or when you first start immersing yourself in the world of Griftlands and you don't really know what's going on, you just know you gotta go somewhere and then find out. Okay, so let me give you the full vision of how I envision Streetball Quest from the very beginning. When I very first started this, I envisioned a dystopian near future world, and of course, sports. And it's actually the world from my previous game, Enter the Hooptagon, same universe. And ultimately, you are a character trying to make it to the Hooptagon, which is like the pro league, and it's like basketball mixed with gladiators, if you will, or like UFC mixed with basketball, the octagon, Hooptagon, that kind of thing. So it's pretty much like a violent, fast-paced, hyperactive basketball version of basketball. So I wanted that, and I wanted it to be kind of set in the future to where that may be plausible. The other thing I wanted it to be is a deck builder. I wanted it to be like Griftlands, and also Slay the Spire. Basically, you're getting a deck of cards, and you're kind of upgrading it as you go, and you're able to make choices based on how you want to play. That's what I wanted in there. And of course, I wanted the RPG elements. I wanted you to be able to level up in some way. I wanted you to be able to build on some of your character's traits that you established from the beginning. And I wanted it to be kind of some kind of adventure. So when you escape the vault in Fallout 3, or when you first embark on your quest in all the games that I mentioned before, right? So that is the kind of genre, the mixture of genres that Streetball Quest is going to become and is currently becoming. There's also a setting for this game. Now I mentioned dystopian and sports, but there kind of implies a lot of lore there, and we will get to lore in future videos. But the main thing that I'm going for is a dystopian Los Angeles type setting. Okay, like a dystopian near future Los Angeles with a little bit of a semi-retro 90s infusion, which is very a minor influence, but it is a big part of it as well, because in this world, we'll get into lore later, but there was a nuclear event in the 90s which caused kind of a lot of this stuff. And then of course, kind of along with the setting is a little bit of the aesthetic that I'm creating myself, which is like the hand-drawn aesthetic, which is a little cartoony and silly at times, but also gritty and a little bit violent, which is similar to my previous game, Enter the Hooptagon, but this has much of a more gritty, hazy tone to it for that dystopian vibe Streetball Quest does. So some of the goals under this overarching vision that I have for Streetball Quest include a sense of freedom. Okay, you want to make choices for yourself as the protagonist in the game. Just meaningful choices are a huge part of what I want to have as a goal for this game. I want you to be able to think, okay, I just chose that. If I would have chose differently, maybe I would have survived longer, or maybe I would have gotten a better item had I made a different choice. I want the choices to feel weighty and easy to make still at the same time, but meaningful. And on top of that, part of the choice element is really being able to play basketball in your own style. I hate it when games have, basically one way to win. Maybe you just have to shoot threes, or if you try to dunk a lot, you're probably gonna win. I wanted to go away from that. I wanted you to be able to make a character who can only dunk, and you're screwed if you have to shoot long shots, or a character who has to shoot long shots, and if his long shot is defended, he's probably not going to be able to score in other ways. I wanted you to have complete freedom to mess yourself up or to triumph in your choices. And a part of the choices to make, there's usually some kind of morality system in all those games, which I enjoy. I think just Griftlands and Fallout have good morality systems. NBA Street Volume 2, imagine NBA Street Volume 2 with a morality system. That's kind of what I'm going for Streetball Quest in a nutshell. I probably could have just said that from the beginning, but you're gonna have choices that will impact you in some way morally. Alongside that, a sense of progression along the way, like you get when you're leveling up, when you're getting more powerful, like what's in a lot of RPGs that everybody loves to play, is that sense of progression, that getting OP at some point. At some point you're going to be so good that you're probably going to win as long as you make good choices. I want that in my game as well. On top of that, I want it to feel like basketball. If you don't feel like at some point you are playing basketball and making basketball decisions, that is a failure for this project. Also, I want to have a cohesive art vibe. I really want to nail the art direction. I'm doing it myself. I'm confident in my skills, but also this is probably the biggest project I've ever undertaken as far as from an art direction standpoint. And so I want to be able to make sure it works. It's obviously a weird mix of sports and dystopian, but so far it's working, and I like the way that it's going. And to finalize just kind of the goals segment here, I really want it to have the type of experience that you get with a Griftlands, with a Slay the Spire, really with any game like Fallout, NBA Street, any great game, you feel like you can play it again in a different way and not get the same experience. So I wanted to have the kind of roguelike element to it in some way, whether that's you don't know which opponents you're getting, maybe it's you don't know where you're going to end up, like geographically. Something like that needs to be in this as well. So another part of kind of the umbrella of the vision of this game is the feeling or emotion that I want to be evoking on the player while they're playing it. And the main thing that came to my mind is kind of a survival and desperation in a dystopian world, post-nuclear event, kind of a blood sport type of situation. Obviously you're going to be in a little bit of a grim, gritty world, and so I want that world to feel really harsh and like you're really trying to survive it. So I want that feeling. But at the same time, I still want there to be a sense of adventure, a sense of freedom, not like you're just barely surviving, barely scraping by all the time, but that you can actually choose to do certain things. And also that the player feels that they're making an influence and an impact on the game, the character influencing the world around them, as well as the player influencing what type of character they are. So just kind of some freedom in character creation, I think can lend itself to that. But also just making an impact, knowing that your choices are affecting you morally, or maybe they are affecting others around you. You can help or not help people in this game. That's the kind of thing that I want the player to feel. This was my original vision for Streetball Quest. However, I had to make a more realistic version of this game. Realistic version. So, all right, us. I'm gonna have to stop you right there for us right there for just a second, because not only was this already a lot of editing, but you're about to give away a whole bunch of stuff about why we had to change Streetball Quest from the original vision into something more streamlined. And we are going to save that for the second devlog. So I'm going to let go ahead and close out this video. That's going to conclude devlog number 1 for Streetball Quest. And thank you for watching if you actually made it this far. If you want to follow the progress of Streetball Quest, you can follow me on Twitter at IDKBenhammock. You can also check out my website, benhammock.com/games. And of course, huge shout out to Jason Glover, who does Grey Gnome Games. He made Iron Gnome. Huge shout out to Clay Entertainment, who did Grifflands. That is a huge inspiration for this game. And if you're like me and you love the old NBA Street games, please share this with somebody else who loves that as well. So stay tuned for several more of these devlogs. I'm going to be posting them on Twitter and YouTube. Thanks.